welcome to an episode of Bella's Reverie. Today's episode, we'll be talking about romance books, the genre that has been around for centuries. Look at Shakespeare for an example, with Romeo and Juliet. But we're not going to talk about the age difference. So, let's talk about romance as a whole. What is romance, and then what is romance as a genre. And right here I have my script. So romance is essentially a form of intimacy, which is a form of love. But you can also love somebody who is a friend or family, but that love is more platonic or familial. While romance as a genre explores the relationships between two characters or more, and often these stories conclude in ending with a happy ending with the two staying together after all of this hardship. But even in the most happiest of romance stories, there's not always a happy ending for the characters, and which sometimes it's a good thing, because sometimes some of these romance stories can be pretty toxic to where you really be like, I don't think they should be together after all of the events that happened throughout the story. So sometimes it's bad that they didn't end up together, but it's a good thing because depending on the factors of the characters, they probably shouldn't have been together to begin with. So we're going to talk about the pros of romance novels. What I personally like about romance novels is romance isn't just the main genre of the whole thing. Now, yes, it is a genre of novel books. But there's a thing called a subgenre. And a subgenre is basically a genre inside of another genre. In romance, the subgenres are paranormal romance, sci-fi romance, dark romance, comedic romance, historical romance, and many more that is not only appeasing to anybody like myself who loves romance stories, but anybody who loves any of the other things. If you want history, but you also want some lovey-doveyness in there, historical romance will be your go-to. Other pros about romance novels is different tropes. A trope is a theme to a story, and this is not only in romance novels, but this is in other novels as well, like Harry Potter or the Hunger Games or whatnot. And that's the shortened term that I can tell you right now, because if I explained you the full list of what a trope is or how many tropes are there, I will be talking forever. And I don't think none of us wants that. A trope is basically the central point of the central point of the story. You know how you we have the romance novels, but let's say you have a dark romance novelty, right? And you're like, okay, so what's the relationship between these two characters and how they're going to end up together? And one of your tropes can be enemies to lovers. The two characters, since the childbirth, both of the families have been enemies, so they became enemies and they would hate each other. But as you see the different POVs of the two characters, and as you see them grow into one, you see that they slowly start to fall for each other. They start to become lovers. But instead, they might it might drift off into enemies, to then frenemies, to then friends, to then lovers. It goes through a little bit of a segment. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm gonna use a book that I have of mine, Twisted Love. Now, this is kind of an adult novel, but I'm mature for my age. I'm not a little kid just oh my goodness. I just read it because it's a book. I don't know how I'm supposed to explain it. It's a book, and it's definitely not for kids. Probably definitely not for teenagers either. I mean, for young adults. But when you first turn into your teenage years, definitely not. But it's a good book, I'll say that. But the trope in this is enemies to lovers, or that one trope where the younger sister falls for the best friend of her siblings, something like that. That's the That's the trope in this. Also a trope called fairy tale retelling, with the book's upside down, with this book called The Beauty Tames the Beast, and it's basically a fairy tale retell of obviously the Beauty and the Beast, because of how, obviously by the title and obviously by how you see what's happening on the cover. I don't think I need to go into more explanation of that. But those are the different types of tropes. There's plenty of more. Like I told you, the comedic kind. So if like you want some comedy in there, go for the comedic romance. Or, well, that's the subgenre, but still. Their tropes are not only in romantic novels, they're also in just regular novels. Like, some of them be the chosen one or the royalty's long lost son trope, where it's like you're in this poor family and then all of a sudden you get a letter saying you're invited to da da da. You're like, huh? And then your parents finally tell you, we're not your actual parents. Your actual parents are the king and queen. And then you're like, what? That's a thing. That's a trope. There's also some tropes that are quite not appeasing to everybody unless you have dark humor or you just like sickening dark stuff. There's people out there and they made tropes of that, and we're not gonna get too much into that because I'm not really into those. Not when I mean not really, I mean not at all. So we're gonna leave those alone. There's plenty of prose in romance novels, so like there's plenty of them. Another pro that I like, especially in, I'm gonna be using this book a lot as a reference. Especially in this book, well, just the creator. I've been butchering her name since I got this book, and I need to write an interview on how she pronounced her own name or how anybody else pronounces it, so I don't butcher it. But I'm gonna just call her Anna. So in this whole series, and just her books in general, she has a common theme where the different chapters or the different point of views of the two love interests. So it's like the first chapter might be the female or the male saying whatever, and then the next chapter will be the other one, which I actually like that. I would actually want to do that with my books that I make. I mean, I don't want to like copy anybody, but I'm pretty sure she's not the only one that does it. I'm not sure. She might be. I gotta do my research, but I actually want to do that because I actually like that, because you get to see the progress. Like I said, like enemies to lovers and stuff, you get to see like how they slowly start to fall for each other in the long run. So I like that. But in all prose to romance novels, there's always gonna be the cons, and that's just not, like I said, not just in romance novels, but in regular ones too. Let's get to the bad stuff of it. There's always something bad with something, and I hate to say that, but there is. I'm not saying there's nothing good, but there's always going to be a downside to something that you really like. One of the cons to romance novels is super fast-paced and extremely slow-paced. This issue not only occurs in romance novels, but in regular novels as well, which I continuously say because I just want to reinforce the fact that I'm not just talking about just lovey-dovey romance books. I'm talking about every single book that has been made. Well, not every single book, but just like a novel and stuff that has been made. Some of these have the same issue, or I feel like is an issue. If the story is progressing too quickly, you can lose the reader's interest, because now they lost track of whatever's happening, because the story goes from they made eye contact, then they kissed, but then they break up, then they back together, and now they're married with 5 kids and a dog. I was just on chapter 1 and they said she was 19. How is she 25 already with kids? Y'all just met. It doesn't make sense to me. It never does. So that's why I say you don't want to go too quickly with the story, because you're going to lose the reader's interest and they're going to lose track, because they're not going to know what's happening, because it's all over the place. There's no organization. There's no there's not a pattern, but like there's no build up to the story, because you just zoom past the build up. And understand you want to get to the main point of the story, but you're gonna have to take your time. But that's another issue. No, I'm saying take your time with your writing, but I don't mean take centuries to get to the point. Chapters and chapters and chapters, and we're already on the 100th chapter and they're still not together. What I'm saying is, like, if you take too long, you're gonna bore your readers, because they're gonna read it and then they're gonna see that it's gonna take forever for these two characters to get together. Which, I mean, it happens, but sometimes when I mean forever, I don't mean like they're taking like episodes to get it together and then now they're finally together after so much time. No, I mean by it takes the longest for either of them to realize the other one has emotional feelings for them. It's kind of like a roller coaster. So imagine this. It's a girl and a guy who are friends. They always hang out all the time. So this is when you get on the roller coaster and you're having your little fun. But then at some point, and this is when you're reaching to the top, they stop talking for a little while. Like it kind of has like they stop talking for a while. Okay, so now you're at the top of the roller coaster. Okay, and then they're both at like this prolonged period of no communication with one another. It's not saying if they see each other in the same area or not. Now you're stuck at the top. Okay, at this roller coaster, you're stuck at the top. You're not moving, and then this is when the reader becomes bored, irritated, annoyed, or even sad that there is no movement, nothing happening from this point on.
One eternity later.
After this amount of pages, and on this last few pages, they finally come together and talk. If the reader stays that long, they're just really that interested in the book. If it took that long for them to get together or talk again, after 30-some chapters, I would put the book down too. Because I lose track when it goes too slow. Sometimes extremely slow pace of the book feels like a broken roller coaster, and then the extremely fast pace feels like a roller coaster where you just zoom and then you're like, I didn't even get to experience the ride for real, because I blinked 1 second, I blinked another second, we on the top, blinked another second, now we back at the beginning, and you're just like, huh? Another con is unrealistic expectations of relationships or just life in general. So unless the book is marked as fantasy, or the author themselves put in text, like in the very beginning of the book, like, you know, you have the book title again, then you got the dedication letter, and then you have the, like, sometimes they have trigger warnings of like if it's some suggestive content in there that could trigger somebody into a state of mind. Or sometimes they say if your name is in it, it's not about you, but I'm just saying, like, so you know it's common names used in this story and all this stuff. I feel like if the author doesn't put that letter where they say that note that says, hey, this is fictional, none of these events actually happen to anybody in this story, these are fictional characters, this is a fictional story, I just made it up, I kind of feel like they're leading somebody on. I'm saying this like to somebody who is in the younger audience and who is reading this book. Like younger audiences that aren't well educated. For example, there are some books that have age gap happening in them. Romance books. But sometimes regular novels too, so it's like age gap. And the age gap is too large towards practically a little kid and a grown person. And while this happens in real life, so it's not technically unrealistic. I mean, yes, you can have an age gap, but a too large of an age gap where it's like the girl's 19 and the guy is like close to his 70s. That's not right. But like somebody who may not understand all of this, like a little kid might think this is okay. Like they might think that it is okay that, oh, it's okay for me to like crush on this 70-year-old. No, it's not. Go read some Dr. Seuss. How old are you? Honestly, they're adding all kinds of topics in romance novels or just in novels in general that can be taken way out of context. But I'm not how to write a novel and what to do expert, because I'm just not. Okay, I'm not. I'm just here telling you pros and cons of romance books. I don't think any type of kid should be reading any kind of book like Beauty Tempts the Beast. I haven't even fully got to it. I'm on only page 8 of this book. I don't know what's happening in here. I just know they're in London and they're British. That's all I know. Last con of today will be about book talk. Now, book talk is just the word TikTok, but they took the tick out and put book in it, okay? I'm just saying if nobody understands it. It really depends on what side of TikTok you're on. If you're on the good part, this is not a con. This is a pro for you, because you didn't get on the... I'm trying to adjust my chair. You didn't get on the bad side. For you people that go on the bad side, I pray for your soul, because there's some very vulgar things and topics on there that will leave you scarred, and not one person over there will care. And it's mainly dark romance, and if you know what dark romance is and read it, then you know why I'm sitting back here and not up close to the camera, because it's something. I at least said only 2 pros and like 3 cons, because there is a lot of pros to romance novels, but there's also a lot of cons. I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons to a lot of things. There's pros and cons to phones, and guess what? People are still gonna buy an iPhone, Apple products, even if someone tells them that Android is better because of the storage and stuff. Anyways, that concludes an episode of Bella's Reverie. I really hope you enjoyed the topic today and the yap session that I had. And I just hope you just enjoyed it as a whole. It was fun for me to talk about this and get all dressed up for a camera. I mean, I'm not really dressed up, but you know, had to put on some. Make sure you stay hydrated and make sure you eat today. Eat some really good food. And I may continue with this. I make a whole thing out of it. Just to talk. Anyways, bye!